Hey, I'm Mark and this is GameRules.com. Today I'm going to teach you how to play Rummy 500. Let's get going. In order to play Rummy 500, you will need a single deck of cards and a way to keep score. If you're going to play with more than 4 players, you'll need a second deck of cards. Cards rank 2 low up through king high in each suit. Aces can be used as a low card, meaning they are played below the 2 in a meld or above the king. And the way they are scored depends on how you play them. Also, if you decide to play with jokers, the jokers are wild and they can represent any card needed to form a meld. To set up for the game, determine a dealer. That person shuffles the deck and deals out 7 cards to each player. For a 2-player game, give 13 cards to each player. Place the rest of the deck face down to form the stock, and then turn the top card over to begin the discard row. One thing you'll notice that is different about Rummy 500 is that the discard is a row that expands outward instead of a pile. Players will be able to see all of the cards that are in the discard row. Each turn consists of 3 phases: draw, meld, and discard. A player's turn begins with drawing, and here you have 3 options. You can either take the top card from the stock and add it to your hand and move on to the meld phase, or you may take the top card from the discard row, add it to your hand, and then move on to the meld phase. Or on future turns, as the discard row expands, your third option is to take a card that is further down the row. So, for example, if my player wanted to take the 10 of clubs, they could do so, but there are 2 rules they must follow. First, you must also take all of the cards on top of that one and add them to your hand. The second rule is you must be able to immediately meld the card you wanted. So I would have to build a meld onto the table using this 10 of clubs immediately. If you are unable to do that, then you cannot take a card that is further down the discard row. For this player's first turn, they may either take the top card from the stock, or they may take the top card of the discard row, because there's only one. Our player decides to take the top card from the stock and add it to their hand. The next phase is the melding phase. You might be asking, what are the legal melds for this game? Well, let's take a look. There are 2 types of melds in this game. The first is called a set. A set is 3 or 4 cards of the same rank. If you are playing with jokers, jokers can represent a card that you do not have to help form the meld. So here this joker would represent the 10 of diamonds. Please note, once you are using a joker to represent a certain card, you cannot add the card that it is representing to that meld. So we could not add a 10 of diamonds to this meld. And that means other players cannot lay off on this meld with a 10 of diamonds because that slot has already been taken by this joker. The second type of meld is called a run. Runs are 3 or more cards in the same suit in sequential order. Again, jokers can be used to represent any card needed to continue the run. And once that card has been replaced with a joker, it cannot be added to the run. Playing an ace in a run, it can be played below the 2, or it could be played above the king. As you can see from this player's hand, they already have a few possible melds, and it is all because of the wild joker. So they could have a set of 2s, a set of 6s, or they could go 10 of clubs, jack of clubs, queen of clubs, using that joker to stand in for the jack. They have the option to play any of these melds to the table, but it is important to remember that you do not have to play melds to the table. However, you will only earn points at the end of the round for the melds that you do play to the table. So anything you're stuck with at the end of the round in your hand will count as negative points. Now, just for the sake of this example, we'll have this player play a meld to the table. So they're going to go ahead and play a run. 10 of clubs, jack of clubs, queen of clubs. And they're going to play that to the table. So once melds have gotten to the table, you can start laying off on them, even if they're not your own. What that means is on your turn, you can take a card from your hand and add it to an existing meld by placing it on your side of the table. You're going to get points for that card, so keep it near you. Also, when you play that card, you need to declare which meld it's part of. So just point out the meld that your opponent played and say, I'm laying off on that. And of course, if you're laying off on your own melds, you don't have to declare anything. Just add that card to your meld. After playing the melds that they wish to play to the table, the player ends their turn by discarding. That is the third and final phase. Choose one card from your hand and discard it to the discard row, being sure that all of the cards can be seen in the discard row. Discarding ends the turn and play passes left. It's important to pay attention while you're discarding because if a card is added to the discard row that could have been melded or could have been added to an existing meld, and you catch that, you're able to say, Rummy, take that card and play it to the proper meld. Also, if a card is discarded that creates a meld in the discard row, you can say Rummy and pick up that meld and play out a normal turn. So once you do that, once you say Rummy, you grab the card or cards that you can meld, you play them, and then you complete a normal turn. You discard a card, and then play will pass left from you. You can, when calling out Rummy, skip other players. Also, the person who created that whole problem, the person who discarded the card, is not allowed to say Rummy. So if you discard something and you realize, shoot, I just created a meld in the discard row, or darn it, I could have played that card on somebody else's meld, you don't say anything. In fact, you hope nobody else notices. So just be cool if you make that mistake. After play has passed left, the round will continue, with each player taking their turn and working through the three phases of their turn. They'll draw, meld if they wish, and then discard. At some point, a player will empty their hand, and this is what ends the round. However, you cannot empty your hand and end the round by melding. You must discard a card to empty your hand. So what happens if you meld and your hand is empty? Well, then everybody gets another turn, and when it is your turn again, you will draw and discard, unless the card can be laid off on another meld. If that happens, you're floating, and that means you're going to wait again, take another turn, draw a single card, and hopefully discard it to end the round. Once that happens, the round ends and it's time to tally up the score. Players earn points for the melds they have played to the table. To figure out your score, you will add up the total point value of each meld. Number cards are worth the value of the number on the card. So 2s are worth 2 points, 3s are worth 3 points, and so on. All the face cards are worth 10 points each. Aces, if played as a low card in a run, are worth 1 point. If they are played as a high card in a run or in a set of aces, they are worth 15 points each. Jokers are also worth 15 points each. The player who emptied their hand will earn positive points for the melds they played to the table, as well as any cards they were able to lay off on their opponent's melds. So here, this opponent will have earned 88 points for the round. All the other players at the table will earn positive points for the melds they played to the table, as well as any cards they laid off, but then they will deduct points for any cards remaining in their hand. And that includes cards that are part of a meld. That's why timing is so important in this game. Choosing when to get your meld to the table will have a big impact on how the game is played. So after adding up your positive points and deducting your negative points, you will have your score for the round. So this player here has 42 positive points and 30 negative points. So they end the round with a score of 12 points, and that's added to their total. And it is possible for a player to end the round with negative points. So here, this player has melded 6 points to the table, but they have 27 points in their hand. So you would still find the difference between the two. So 27 minus 6, 21. They have earned negative 21 points for the round. They deduct that from their total score. And after you've determined the score for the round, simply collect the cards and the deal passes left from the previous dealer. You'll continue playing rounds until one player reaches a score of 500 points or more. Whoever does that first is the winner. And if more than one person crosses that 500 point threshold in the same round, it's whoever has the most points that wins the game. It is possible for a round to end in a tie with more than one player tying past the 500 point threshold. If that's the case, just play another round until you have a clear winner. And those are the rules for Rummy 500 from GameRules.com. If you'd like to check out more how to play videos, be sure to check out the Game Rules YouTube channel. And if you'd like to see these rules in writing, head over to GameRules.com. The link will be down in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep on playing.